This conference will now be
Okay,
recorded.
there we go. All right. Okay, so financial independence, what is it? What do we do? What's it all about? Well, it's not a cult. We don't want your firstborn. So financial independence is a movement. It focuses on controlling your finances in order to get to a point where your income from other sources, so not your PAYE income, but income from other sources, covers your expenses. So let me just quickly run through a few of these here, these slides. So basically, if you're not on mute, please go on mute and close off your webcam, because otherwise things will slow down. If Okay, can anybody hear me? You can unmute yourself, or you can jump into the comments and just say yes. Okay, Ashley, you got me. Okay, that's good. All right. It didn't seem like it was working there for a minute. Okay. All right. So, like I said, we're going to do the quick survey. I'll do a quick introduction to financial independence for everybody here in the room as well, and we'll just kind of quickly browse through the pillars, the 10 pillars that I set up there on the website, so we can talk about those a little bit. And then Mary, who's here in the room, she's going to talk about her dance with the financial independence. And then we can have Q&A throughout that, or we can also do Q&A afterwards as well, if you want to talk about anything to do with financial independence. Okay, all right, so let me just quickly jump into the survey. So I'm going to post this into the comments. And if you can click on that link, and basically what that's going to do is just give us a better idea of where people stand with where they are right now, basically, where they stand with financial independence. So if I open that up, I got it open already. All right, so see here, it's real time. So far 100% has said that they do track their expenses. And we can jump to the next question as well, which is how much FI experience you have, and you're on the steady path. So 100% there as well. So I don't think everybody's maybe answering those questions, but that's okay. Please do jump in and answer that. So if you jump into the chat there, you'll see the link and you can answer that. All right, so we'll come back to this again. Why not? So let's go into our 10 principles. So when I set up this this group, this financial independence group, basically the reason I set it up was to find out if there was anybody else in Ireland that was interested in financial independence. And a few people came out of the woodwork. Sure enough, on the first meeting, I think there was 6 people, and it kind of grew and grew from there. We had, at one point, we had 60 people in this room when we were doing it before COVID, and so then we went online, and now we're trying to do this hybrid of online and face-to-face as well. So I did set up this website then called Ignite My Fire, wrote a few blogs there, and then wrote out these 10 principles as well. So I'll just quickly go through those. They're so tracking your expenses. I think this is the most important thing is tracking expenses. And so the reason we do that is because we need to know where we are, right? We need to know where our money is going to, especially the categorizations of those expenses. Having an emergency fund then, so that's kind of a buffer zone, so that if something does happen, we could have some 3 to 6 months of expenses there. It's debatable. You can have 3 months, you can have 6 months. It's a very personal preference on how you want to do it. But what that does is prevents you from dipping into credit cards. It prevents you from having to sell off any investments that you have, so that you can still got that money there, and you can dip into that emergency fund instead. All right, get rid of those unnecessary debts, so those credit cards, car loans, and the reason for that is because they're very high interest rates, and we don't want to have that because they drag you down. It's very difficult to save and start investing if you also got a lot of debt, so get rid of unnecessary debts. Save consistently. This one helps quite a lot. So if you can save, you can set up standing orders, save, put your money into some savings accounts or something along those lines, eventually get it over into investments. That's going to build up quite quickly. So try and jump on that as well, get that set up. Increase your pre-tax retirement fund. So here we're talking about the pensions, to add money to those pensions as you go. You're going to find that's going to help out quite a lot. The earlier you start, the better it is. Believe me, I started late, and so you should try and start as early as possible. Even with the way things are right now, I would still recommend jumping into pensions and adding additional money into that. All right, decreasing expenses. We focus on the fat expenses, the food, accommodation, transport. Try and bring those ones down. If you can, try and bring them down as much as you can. And then increasing income, of course, that's the opposite of decreasing expenses. It's actually better to decrease expenses than it is to increase income. And the reason for it is because if you have your expenses low, you're going to need less money in your investments and less income to maintain your financial independence. So it's always better to decrease expenses rather than try and increase income. So keep that in mind, right? And then moving on to the 8, 9s, and 10s, then we're looking at more when you get to retirement or preparing yourself for retirement. I preach this every month, and I say, try and learn something new every year. It will help. It'll help you to transition over into that retirement. Could be whatever it could be. It could be anything, right? It could be gardening, sewing, knitting, whatever it is, flying planes if you want to, right? So beware of lifestyle creep. This one gets everybody, and it always will, unless you keep an eye out for it. So as long as if your income is increasing, whether it's through whatever, let's say raises at work or whatever it's going to be, it's very easy just to end up spending that money. So you're not getting anywhere. All you're doing is you're taking that money and you're throwing it back out to somebody else. You're giving it to somebody else. That's not going to get you anywhere. So what you want to do is keep those expenses at your same level, or you can increase them a little bit. But that income, that extra income that you get, and try and get that into savings, get it into investments, get that money working for you. And then last but not least here, so if you listen to any blogs or videos or anything else like that about financial independence, you'd have heard about these rule of thumb numbers, the 25 times your annual expenses, 4% withdrawal rates. So basically what this is saying is, these are definitely rule of thumbs, by the way. So don't hold these numbers true, right? So if you know what your annual expenses are, let's say they're 40,000 per year, multiply that by 25, which is actually 1 million, funny enough, nice round number. That's how much you would actually have to have in your investments in order to be able to safely withdraw 4% from that. And that investment should stay there then for at least the next 30 years. There's a 95% probability of it staying there for the next 30 years, right? And the reason for it is you're drawing out 4%. It should be increasing by about 7 to 8% per year on average, of course. So that 3% stays in there and builds and grows from there, okay? All right, so that was it for financial independence. Jump back to these pillars on a regular basis because it does help. Even people who have been in financial independence and on that long journey, stick to it and come back into these principles because we do lose our way sometimes. So this kind of just helps. It builds that foundation. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to pass you guys over to Mary. Mary's going to talk about her dance with independence. And what I'm going to do is open up her PowerPoint here, but let's see, I don't need to pass it over. No, I'll just keep it on here, Mary, okay? And I'll pass the headset over to you. All right, just give me a second here. You can stay there right now. Okay, it's opening up in this mode, but you can see that, you still see that, right?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, all right, let me just pass. I'm going to pass you over to Mary now.
Hi, everybody. Hi there. Where am I looking in the camera? Am I? Oh, yeah. Okay. Asked me to have a chat. I'm on the WhatsApp, and I don't really contribute a lot, especially to the technical part. I need to talk and felt something of what I'll say may be helpful. So I'm a little vulnerable around the technical aspects, the actual, the detail of it. I'm not in it that long. So I'm going to go backwards. I'm 65. I've retired. Am I financially independent? I ask myself that. It's early days. I also ask myself, am I independent? Something, Anita. Oh, that's right. Sorry. Am I independent and am I doing what I want? So that's been a question I've had since I've retired, because that's what I really want, is what, I want to do what I really want to do. And I think I am. What I did is, when I was 59, with the plan of that magic age, a lot of people talk about 60, it's kind of moving up to 70 now, but since I started working about 42 years ago, 60 was the age of retirement. So when I was 59, I realized 60 is coming and I need to really watch this. And for that year, from 59 to 60, I really became aware of a lot about my life, a lot about my physical health, for example, my finances, obviously, and wanted by the age of 60 to kind of feel, okay, I know myself a bit better and I'm a bit more prepared. So now that I'm 65, it's interesting because I've realized that a lot of things change. And between 60 and 65, lots of changes have happened in my life. So thanks. So my current goals, I thought it might be good to just say, okay, what are my goals? My goals at the moment are, age-wise, I'm grateful for living healthily to 65. I'm at an age where a number of my friends have become ill, have died, and so I feel really grateful, and that's a goal, to maintain that gratefulness. I want to live my best life in the present tense, and I also want to remain calm about living and dying. And some of that kind of comes from, sometimes I hear on the radio or on the TV talk about seniors, or I might read an article about an elderly person died on the road and they're my age, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, have I moved into that sort of senior category that leaves me vulnerable according to the newspapers or the media? And so I just want to remain calm about being this age and growing to be 70 and 80 and 90. Also, I worked all of my 42 years at something I really loved, and I want to celebrate that the earnings, that the income that I got was at something I loved, and I think that's really important. So it did mean that I had to make some less financially secure decisions to do what I loved. I could have probably made more money in other areas, but that passion and that love has helped me. So the other goal is, go, just look forward in the future, and to be constant. future, and to remember that change is the only. I think I had this notion that, you know, by the time I'm independent, I'd say, sorry about this.
Just turn off the webcam right now.
Okay, I can keep talking anyway. I think I had this notion that so to be a constant, you know, that at a certain yeah, I a certain thing would happen, but I realized it's all that is the only constant. To know that is helpful. And then about renewing, that's what I've learned. Joy and age is there's a great joy in thing. For doing new things. And as Vince said, getting retirement where you start something new or you might have a different mindset. So I want to keep it in moving forward. Short-term goals are myself very, very found just bounce into something new. So I want to rest and short-term goals eventually. And I'm selling my home, and my new agent is selling his home. So to find a home ultimately is another goal right now. So last week I found a great the technical side of financial independence. I find that very scary because I'm not good at economics for a year and I failed. It's not my so I'm not my forte at all. And how I get over that is I had a personal financial advisor all of these years, and that was brilliant because he was a specialist. I loved the comments last time about it's not just about money, but it's sort of also about, you know, bringing people along and including sort of the culture and the context of retirement and what our goals are. And then Roger mentioned his belief in fairies. I loved that. So again, I think the whole thing of maintaining our spiritual health, meaning our heart and our soul, towards this age of 65 and onwards. So having those beliefs is helpful. I loved also when Roger mentioned future memories. And just, it almost sounds contradictory, but it just made sense to me about sort of how to plan in a positive way so that those memories may be positive into the future. And then get this philosophy of mine for many, many years, and I in it. Just the simplest thing I really believe in. There's a great doctor in Vancouver who works with people with trauma. For example, every homeless person, and he's said for every home has trauma. And that really inspired me to think about, oh gosh, I didn't ever thought about it that way before. And so the littlest thing of maybe gathering €5 notes in my pocket for flyers in my pocket and being able to switch. I have a few direct debits to places from my that I feel are very important. I'm lucky enough to have a home and have had a home. So for example, somebody like Peter McFerrin might be environment. I feel giving to get is very positive and it always comes back. So I heard from Vince, who was on the radio. I found that interview about 5 years ago of take a check on where I'm at, and you know, nearly coming to I'm at nearly to 60. Well, it was a little bit, yeah, for that thing. So I knew I needed to do more, and I found that really motivating, that particular program. And it was just so great to have f.i.r.e. to be able to Google it and finally you could join. I love the WhatsApp, and I found that so helpful. So it sounded a bit like freedom, which is a core value of mine. I was a bit vulnerable because of the incompetence in relation to just the whole area of the technical side of things like EFTs, for example, or just something not being able to kind of hold that all in terms of it feels like it's the core, but I've learned so much more since. So I joined, and I'm really grateful for that. And this book, Mastery, Robert Greene has written it, and I loved it. It really helped me in my work. It helped me in understanding teams and some employees I had in the past, and it just describes how the kind of towards mastery, we start off with a skill. So that might be a college degree, or it might be learning a particular skill that's a niche skill. And then apprenticeship is really important. And this is what I found very helpful, because I had experience of some people who developed a skill, but they want mastery very quickly. When he talks about this, really gives it value. It says this is this is the rules master apprenticeship, where we get then, as we move toward all the help from our people who are more experts, or through experience, we become more competent. Obviously, we gain experience. Finally, we have mastery. And I think that applies to finance, learn, be independent. Kind of, it's like there's a core skill. I'm trying. Of an apprentice and move master towards mastery, but my financial, again, what I do is I consult the match is my advisor, because I'm not so good independently myself. You know, at 21, that was way back in, I had no clue. I don't know, I think it was about 17. I had finance. My head was in the clouds year initially, and worked for, to me, that was the core. Like I learned my trade under, you know, very nervously initially, but got sort of competent in that, and then to travel. So I traveled for 3 years Asia. After 5 years work, I sold my car and I lived very cheaply, because I got the bug out of my system. But it was really good, because the travel Rogers saying that last, I find that really leading. When I came, had children, I and
Okay, so you should. Okay, just ask them, talk to them, and ask them if they can hear you.
yeah, can you hear me now?
You can
I don't know if they can see me, hear me.
yeah, there you go.
All right.
All right, there you go.
I can hear you.
Oh, very good. It's not online. Somebody. Oh, that's great. Oh, that was working maybe.
Okay.
Oh yeah. So anyway, that was those early days. Not a lot of time. And I suppose looking back on it, I can see now, over say 40 plus years, there are periods of time when it's easier to focus than others on financial independence. I have a 34-year-old son, and I have two twins who are 28, and really they are not listening to me when I'm talking about pensions and financial independence, not yet. So there's particular times when it's easier to focus, but certainly when a family comes along, yeah, that doesn't give it as much space as I had. So on that journey, I was just kind of putting these things down that helped me, inspirations. to do. So I really feel happy now. I think that's psychologically the fact that I'm retired. I feel really happy that I engaged in a job I loved, and I think that's very helpful to my sort of emotional well-being, and I feel very satisfied by that. So yeah, I just wanted to write that in. Change happens. I think this is something like thinking about financial independence. It's like I sometimes have the illusion that it's all going to go on a certain path and there aren't going to be bumps. But my journey had lots of twists. I had children, and there were, you know, that was a very different kind of draw on the budget. So I wanted to inspire in them also the love for what they do. So, you know, if one really loved football, saving for that, having enough money put away for it, and making sure that it didn't interfere with the plan of my being able to retire eventually. My marital status changed, so that was a difficult time. I separated, I eventually divorced when that became legal. And again, there were a lot of unexpected expenses in that. And I guess I took the road of keeping myself mentally as calm as I could, because I didn't want more unexpected problems in relation to finances to do with legalities. And so my goal was, you know, we can manage this and it will be okay. But during those times, of course, there was a lot of expense. And again, at that time, relationships were really important. My health was really important. My emotional well-being was really important. And again, I want to just reiterate, now that I'm 65 and feeling healthy and well, they were really good investments. So that was the point somebody made last session, that, you know, it's about everything, financial independence. So investing in these things at certain times are probably very helpful to just towards when the day comes that we're retiring. So back to just saying a little more of what I said. What helped? Well, I got a good skill, a good job. The permanent job helped. I was able to travel with my job, and I was able to do some traveling personally. That all helped because it helped me come back and settle, and I had a good start. I bought a house early enough, and that was really helpful, particularly when I sold it in 2008. I made a good profit, and I'm now selling a house again. So all of that was really positive towards the next house and the next house, and now a house that, you know, is fairly valuable. I was very vigilant on my budget. I did try not to scrimp all the time, because I wanted those future memories at the time to be good memories for me and my children. But that vigilance on the budget was very important. I really worked hard on never being, on paying my credit card every month, for example, and not being in too much debt, apart from a huge mortgage for a period of time. And that advice, read the 65 monthly pension, that was such great advice, even though it was so little. And I paid all I could then in self-employment. As the years went on and I was making a bit more money, I paid everything I could into the pension to get my tax-free allowance. So that was very helpful at the end. I think the other big thing that has helped me is the personal advisor. Like, I know in this group, there's certain people who have really good specialisms, and that's what I reach out to. I think that's so great, because I know in my job, I'm a specialist in one area, but I'd have to go to so many other people to learn more. So this man is a specialist personal advisor. I have many meetings. He has an annual fee of €500, and it's a really good investment, because you can have as many meetings as possible, and I engage often. I'm very interested in knowing where the investments are going, and I want to have a say in certain types of investments, ethically, for example, or in ways that I want to listen to him. What's the latest trend? But he's my go-to in that way, and that gives me great satisfaction. I've been able to go to him for preparing to retire, and he's put all of my different pensions together, and he's given me advice on the Irish state pension and so on. So that's been really great. So what helped? I got a gift along the way, an inheritance that was very, very helpful. I was able to pay off my mortgage and again spent money as frugally and carefully as I could, so that I wouldn't have that long-term interest, into my, I mean, my mortgage state was to be even longer than now, but that helped to help pay it off. What didn't help was when I came back, when I took 5 years from the public service, I didn't pay AVCs when I came back. And that's partly because I had a family. I just had absolutely no money. And but I regret that I didn't find it someplace. Another thing that didn't help was fear. So I have certainly at times I've sold shares. They're about, I'd say it was about 6 years ago, and it was the fear of becoming 60 and that, oh my gosh, I mightn't have enough money, so I'd sell the shares. They probably doubled since. So I think maybe that's a natural human instinct, but I was over planning in a way for the day when I would retire, instead of letting it run and wait to see what might happen. So I was kind of sorry about that. At the moment, I have 3 sources of pension. No, I have 2 waiting for my third source, which is the state pension. So a private one, a public one, and a state. And they're all small enough, but together, and the lump sums that have come with the pensions, I reckon that I can manage. And my have to be kept intact. I think in relation to that, it's, for me, it's feeling abundant. It's like not having too much worry about, I better keep it. Like, I want to feel abundant. So the rainy day fund stays, but I want to have the attitude to it that it's there for an emergency, but activity.
There's a question on this.
Oh yeah.
As a personal financial advisor, a personal advisor, a financial advisor, meaning are they?
Yeah.
So a financial advisor needs to be certified.
Yeah, that's he's all that.
Yes, okay.
Yeah. So it's certified. And I found the security of that very helpful. So yeah, I guess including it all is important. So relationships, I guess over the years of developing towards financial independence, maintaining relationships, giving time to relationships, and then having those relationships now that I'm retired is very important. I think retirement gives more time for that. I'm finding that just ordinary things like meeting somebody or visiting somebody or being there for somebody who's in need is a great gift now, when I just didn't have time for that when I was working full time. Physical health is for free. I really feel that's very important for us all there as a very important piece, because to have it right out there. I know as I age, my health becomes more vulnerable. But, financial independence is no good without it. So having finance without the health, and again, as I age, I can see that more and more in relation to others, having bad health or difficulties that way. So I would just say at all times, keep physical health tops. It's free. There's so much we can do. Mental health, and I think in relation to mental health, for me, over the years, spending money when needed, be it for fun, company, entertainment, therapy, travel. I think to maintain that attitude of I've got to keep going through this in a way that I'm happy, So these are areas that I would have spent money on. Spiritual and emotional health, again, they're free. And that sense of kind of feeling that I've arrived into a place where I'm ready for life and emotionally well in myself. And that can be through podcasts, gatherings, person-to-person outings, independence, I'm sure. But again, the tribe that supports us, there's so many different places we can go and often free. But that support, I think, in areas that we love or in areas that we need more support from, is very helpful. And then I love that term, usefully thinking about what it is we're doing or what our goals are and so on. Included another, I included this other tip, this one for people who have children, especially smaller children. I find this really helpful at a course I did many, many years ago, and it was by this guy called Adler. He's a doctor and a psychologist, and he had this great belief in psychology of democracy, and talked about every system we work in is, if you like, a democracy. So, and he included a family. He said, like, a family needs to be like a democracy. So, so what he gave this, it's a really tiny tip, but I found it so good. He liked, in a family, he talked about the child exercising their power through reasoned decision making whilst cooperating with others. And at the time, this tiny tip he gave was about pocket money. And I would have been giving pocket money to my kids who were growing older, but kind of based on, did they do their jobs or did they sort of earn it? And he talked about pocket money should always be an allowance. And it's such a simple thing, but he said, you know, they, like, at the end of the week, and there's no more beyond that. So I used that with my children, and it was quite extraordinary because they began to budget in very small ways. They began, and you're sort of encouraged not to give a skimpy amount, like not to give so little that they can just go out and buy a bar chocolate, like. But so I organized an amount that I felt was enough, and I found it was really interesting how just the very fact that they knew every Friday they were going to get this amount, they would plan and they would think about it, to the point where I remember one of my sons coming and saying, there was a school tour coming, and he said, I have some money, do you want me to contribute to this? And I found that lovely. And I think it was because it wasn't tagged to, you were good, so you're getting this, or you earned it. So considering it as an allowance. And so the questions I might have over the years and now is about my health insurance. I have spent a lot of money on health insurance over the years. Probably needn't have taken the top plan, which cost the most. I kept my kids on for many years, and I think a couple of times they were out of the country and I was still paying. So I suppose I could have saved money on that a little bit. And also I learned I had to get cataracts removed, and I wasn't able to get the professional, the ophthalmologist I wanted. So because he was in a different band that I was paying for, a different hospital. And I realized, actually, I really need to look at my health insurance. Which place do I want to go to, and which consultants do I want now that I'm aging? So that those two angles of looking at how long do you keep your kids on it, and how do you get the best out of your health insurance. And then obviously we've had lots of insurances. I can see with my dad, who he lived to 95 up to recently, and his bills were high because he was given that loyalty. When you get older, they just so I suppose I'm now learning switch all the time. The tech of things to come scares me a bit. Like, I really find it hard. I'm on my laptop trying to get into the bank, and then I have to have two-factor authentication, and then the Wi-Fi goes down, and then it all fails. That's just a question I have for myself. I'm sometimes, and I hear people my own age saying, you know, what's it going to be like in 10 years' time when we're trying to access our bank account? So I'm learning and I'm working hard on it. And other questions I have is cryptocurrency. See, Jiao is here, so. I thought it was Jiao. So it's the virtuality of all of that. It's kind of the, yeah, I suppose I find I hope I'm not too old to, I have that built that, am I competent enough in terms of learning about virtuality and virtual currency? And then this is something I wanted to add in. This is, when I heard Roger talk about fairies,
Okay, thanks everybody, and thanks for sticking around online, even
Yeah.
though with the audio. So I think we got it somewhat sorted. I probably need to rethink this online hybrid face-to-face, because the worst part about it, it would work, but the only problem is the Wi-Fi. So the Wi-Fi here is not good. So right now I'm running this through my hotspot on the phone, and I don't think it looks like it's quite good enough to keep everything going. But we can see. But I might maybe rethink this and maybe record this meeting face to face, and then put it up online where everybody can get to it. Something along those lines. Well, we'll see how things go. All right, so there was one further question online. If you were tracking expenses before and after retirement, did any expenses rise more than you expected, or any ones arise, or any new ones would rise?
So oh yeah. Oh yeah. So I certainly think travel expenses, well, because we had the pandemic, of course, but we still have traveled. So travel expenses, and I anticipate that they will go up. You know, yeah, I think it's much cheaper to live when I'm retired. And also, there's a huge amount out there for free that we're learning about. The question of, is there a seniors rate? I'm living much more. I think it's partly also because I don't have the stress of work. That I'm living much more carefully, and that therefore going out a lot has reduced, or having lunch out because I've been working, or I'm out somewhere and I can't be, I mightn't have brought sandwiches and I just go for it. That has reduced. I think I'm more mindful too, because I'm retired, so I haven't got the same. Previously, if I worked harder, I might have been able to have a better income, but I don't have that now, and I don't know where things are going in terms of pension funds and so on. I think offhand, is there any other? Yeah, I mean, I'm in an unusual position where I'm renewing, and this is unexpected in a way, in terms of what I might have thought of 20 years ago. But now my husband and myself are both selling two houses. So there's an element of, oh gosh, what's that going to mean? But again, we've really got to plan for that in terms of, do we want some money left over? Where will it mean we live? If we choose one place, it's going to be more expensive than another. But that was an unexpected. And I suppose that's what I'm saying is, oh, I'm surprised that there was unexpected, because I thought, the trajectory of moving forward into financial independence would be sort of an easy, predictable route, but not quite.
Actually, any further questions online for Mary, or any in the room? Okay.
I was listening to a guy called f.i.r.e. He's a finance guy in Cork. Did a Zoom thing. And I was just wondering if you heard of a scheme with the government whereby if you invest 10,000 in an Irish company, after 2 years, the government give you back 4,000. Wow. No, and then, you know, just reading this bit now because I'm not that familiar. After 4 years, you get back 2,000. But I don't know if anyone's done it because I've never heard of it.
Yeah, it's called the, okay, so the question for those online is if there's a scheme that you heard about where when you invest 1,000, you get back 4,000 after 2 years, right? So basically that's called the EIIS scheme, right? So it's, yes, yeah. So it's the Employee Investment something scheme, EIIS anyway. I can't remember what exactly it is. And basically what they do is when you invest in that scheme, and you don't, it can be either a fund or it could be individual companies. They will give you back your tax out of that. So if you're on the high tax bracket, let's say you're on 40%, then and you invest 10,000, they'll actually give you back 4,000 euros, right? So really you're investing 6,000, but the 10,000 is still there. So you'll get, well, hopefully you'll eventually get that 10,000 back plus more. That's the way it's supposed to work out.
So as long as the company does well.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah. There's risks involved. So I would recommend, if you are looking into something like that, to look into investing in an EIIS fund rather than individual companies. Because if you invest in individual companies, you have to do your due diligence then on that company. And with the fund, they already do that for you. And then they also invest across multiple different companies, and it kind of makes things a little bit better.
Yeah, hello, Prince Sheridan. Go on now.
For those of you online, can you can you please mute? Let's see. Everybody, there you go. All right. Okay. So does that make sense? Yeah. So if you look that up, yeah, just look it up online. You can also go to brokers as well. So any of the it is a government scheme, but the brokers run it. So the brokers are run funds basically that are based around EIIS. And exactly, yeah. So exactly, yeah. And one of the things you have to watch out for there is you can only get that that money back from that government if once that money has been invested in the company. So you will hand over whatever it is, 10,000 to the broker, but they don't invest that money straight away, right? So they still could be taking a while to put that investment into that company. And then once they invest into that company, you get a kind of like a certificate back. You get that into the revenue, and then they'll send you your tax back then on that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So is it only actually worth doing then, Vince, if you're on the higher tax bracket?
So the question is it only worth doing if you're on the higher tax bracket? Well, you still get the 20%. If you're on the lower tax bracket, you get the 20% back. And I suppose it's another way of diversifying your investments as well.
Yeah.
Right, so you're still spreading your money out a little bit. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. It's worth looking into, and it's worth thinking about, and you know, do your due diligence on it as well, and see if it's something you want to do. Take that risk. You know. Yeah. Yeah.
There's a few questions I think.
Okay. All right. So for future session, maybe the different types of FI, lean fat, but also Coast, Barista, Flamingo, etc. Okay, Aisling, I'll keep that one in mind. Will you continue to live in Ireland or retire? Or in retirement, Murray? Or will you continue to live in Ireland in retirement?
I think so. But I think in the short term, yeah, in the short term, our plan is to buy too quickly to sell, and then perhaps to spend 6 months away, just taking our time and waiting. And I love that idea of traveling. I'm not sure. I think I'm not sure about buying. I'm sure people have property outside, but certainly I'd like the experience of living in the sun for a while.
And actually, Ashleen's question is an interesting one there. Well, not a question, but a statement.
Yeah.
So she's talking about the different levels of financial independence. So there's the lean, the fat, the barista, the coast, the flamingo. I haven't heard of flamingo actually. Okay, so they're basically the different levels of financial independence, where they're saying, once you get to that financial independence, if you just have enough money coming in to pay your expenses, then that's lean then, right? But if you got more money than you could possibly ever spend in the month, then you're fat, right? The what's the other one? The barista. Barista is basically that you're financially independent, so you'll have enough money to cover those expenses, but you're also maybe doing a part-time job or something like that for extra income, things like that. The coast, I can't remember that one. I'm not sure. Maybe Ashley, you can enlighten us on that one, what the coast is. And I have no idea what the flamingo is, but that's definitely an interesting one. I'm thinking colorful, I'm thinking birds, I'm thinking, I don't know. Yeah. So I suppose actually what I found interesting there with Marie is that I thought you were very analytical in how you broke everything down. So you broke it all down into different elements, and think about your mental health, think about your emotional health, think about, here's what the mistakes that I made and how I was kind of able to rectify those and get it out of them, which I think is a good idea. It's a good idea to be thinking about all of that, because there is that transition. I was talking to Marie earlier, and I said, how did you find that transition going from working to all of a sudden not working, to having an income and also not having an income, to having something to do and having your day planned out, and having that that identity as well, right? To all of a sudden not having any of those. So there is that transition, and you have to think about that, and you have to plan for that. And I believe it's important as well to plan for it, because if you don't, you're going to find yourself waking up one morning retired and going, oh boy, what do I do? And then you panic, and then you might go back to work, or you might do something else completely crazy, But yeah, but I found that the way you broke that down was quite interesting, and that you found it, you analyze what you're going to be doing and on what you've done.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, so.
And I suppose it strikes me that you can only do that when you get to 65. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's hard to do that when you're 45. You can't see the future, true. But when I'm this age and I'm looking back, it gives me, well, that's why I'm here today, is to give you the ups and downs.
Yeah, and it's always good to see that, because I'm always telling everybody in here, I always say to everybody, we all got a different point of view. We all got different things happening in our lives. We all got a story to tell. Every one of us. We all have it, because we're all on that path. We're all trying to figure out how to do this, and where we go, and what we do, and are we doing the right thing? Are we second guessing ourselves? Did we make a mistake? Like Mary said, like she saw some stock there a while ago. Oh, that was a mistake. Maybe I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
But okay, we'll carry on, and we'll figure it out, and we'll. But it's good to let everybody else know, hey, you know what? I made a mistake. I shouldn't have done that. But I learned from it, and maybe you should learn from it as well. And let's invest. There's always one thing that I'm never ever like to hear in this group is about speculation, because I think speculation is gambling, and it's very easy to lose your money. I done a lot of speculation back in the 2000s and that .com bubble, and I was doing great for a while, and I thought I was on top of the world. I thought I was the smartest person in the world, and I was making a huge amount of money. And one year, then it hit rock bottom. I lost a lot of money, and it went way down, and I lost more than I actually had. So it brought me into debt. So that's speculation. That's when you're timing the market, or when you're trying to figure out, will this stock go up or down? Will the market go up or down? We don't want to do that. We want to have a slow, steady path. Just carry on investing slowly. Get into a fund that is not so volatile. That is, is covering a lot of the industries. It's spread out quite a lot, diversified, and that it'll carry on slowly creeping up in a trend that'll slowly creep up to the right and to the top, right? That's what we're aiming for. But it does happen over time. And there's going to be years like now where things plummet, and but if you're still investing, you're going to get that dollar cost averaging, or maybe we can say euro cost averaging, right? And it'll keep it going and keep at your plan, unless you can see. But you do have to make tweaks, I think, but only tweaks, not major changes all the time. Yeah.
And that's where the trust comes in.
The trust, yeah.
In the long term.
Yeah.
I think the other thing just there on retirement is I had this notion that for a while I thought, oh sure, I'll never retire, because I loved what I did. So I kept thinking, oh sure, I'll never retire. So I didn't have to worry about finances. I was kind of codding myself, because of course I had to retire, but there was that piece around thinking that, I'll always have an income, I'll always do a little bit. But actually the time then came when, even though it was a vocation for me, I loved everything I did about my job. The time has come where it's like, well, actually, no, now that I'm not doing it, I'm realizing there's other parts to retirement, which is about me now. The children are reared, it's about enjoying this time. And little by little, I've let work go, different parts of work go, and now I don't miss it as much as I thought I would. And I think it's very healthy that I'm not scooting down to Cork to do something and running over somewhere else. And I'm noticing that all that sort of stress that was part and parcel of something I loved has gone. So that idea of, sure, I'll always do something has surprised me that I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
Did you do a lot of preparation before you retired?
I did a lot of preparation,
Key ones.
Well, because I was self-employed, I did everything very slowly. So that might be different. I think my husband, just left his job at 5 o'clock on a set date and did preparation, but that was it. Whereas I was kind of holding on to a lot of my work and the children I used to work with and so on. So the key things were, because of self-employment, was preparing about 5 years ahead, knowing that I was going to reduce my income. I worked sort of, instead of 5 days, I worked 3 days. And part of that was to see, can I afford that? Because if I have less income, can I manage on that? And I did. My identity, because my identity was very connected to my work, and I probably thought I was indispensable, and sure, I've this great gift, and I'm very important. And it really took me a while to realize, that's okay, you're not actually. People can get by without you. And I started to become conscious of my age, because very wonderful too. So letting all that go, that idea of holding on to, I'm one of the elders and I know all this, and saying, no, let it go, let it go. Does that make sense? So the identity was a bit of a thing.
All right, guys. For everybody online, I think there is one further question there. Have you been looking into slow growth funds, but with such high taxes on them in Ireland? Is it still worth doing? Yeah, the way I kind of look at that, the slow growth funds are more like ETFs, all world ETFs, something like that. The way I look at that is, yes, we get hit pretty hard with taxes here. We got that 8-year deemed disposal, and then you got exit tax instead of capital gains tax. But the way I look at it is, what else are you going to do with the money? You can leave it in a bank. That's not going to get you much growth out of it. So we have to do something with it, So rather than having it sitting there, so is it worth it? Not really, but they're the options we have in this country, unfortunately. Yeah. Look, I just So yeah, let me just close off that recording now.